أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In the name of Allah, the Most High, the Most Merciful. Brothers and sisters, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all. Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In the previous episode, we mentioned and discussed the family life, the importance of family upbringing, and referred to the family life of Imam Hussein and the upbringing of Imam Hussein and the effect of the personality and the character of Imam Hussein in the universal message that Imam Hussein carried. Today your host Said Ali Musawi Khalkhali in this series on the awakening journey. We welcome our guest speaker Sayyid Muhammad Jawad Al-Qazwini. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah Sayyidina. Now, Sayyidina, everyone knows, or everyone wishes to know further Imam Hussein in the majalis and the programs in reference to Imam Hussein. However, there is very little known of the opposite side, and we always say to always an argument, there's always two sides to a story. So, who was the family of the opponent or family of Yazid ibn Muawiyah? Who was the family of Yazid in reference to the battlefield of Karbala and the opponent of Imam Hussein alayhi salam?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashraf al-anbiya'i Muhammad wa ala alihi al-tayyibin al-tahirin wa la'natu ala a'da'ihim ajma'ina wa amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam.
You've touched upon a very important subject, a very important matter. A lot of people are familiar with Imam Hussein. And Imam Hussein is a person that, for the most part, does not even need an introduction. However, Imam Hussein chose to stand in the face of his enemy Yazid, the son of Muawiyah, and fight him instead of giving allegiance to Yazid. And Imam Hussein exposed Yazid from the day of Ashura and until today, for almost 14 centuries. Imam Hussein chose to expose Yazid eternally and forever. People need to know who Yazid was. And people need to know the history behind the whole conflict between Imam Hussein and Yazid.
A balanced story between the two.
A balanced story between the two. In the previous episode, we spoke about the upbringing of Imam Hussein, his family and environment, and how that affected the personality of Imam Hussein, and how Imam Hussein is affecting the world today through that personality. If you allow me, to be fair, I'll do the same thing in examining the biography of Yazid, the son of Muawiyah. However, the reason why we are examining the biography of Imam Hussein, as a scholar and a religious scholar in particular, I recall several years back, one of the muftis, the grand muftis of one of the Muslim countries that I don't want to mention now, came out on public television on the eve of the 10th of Muharram. It was the 9th of Muharram. The Grand Mufti of one of the most popular Islamic countries in the world. And he was asked by a phone call that, can you speak about the conflict of Imam Hussein and Yazid and what happened and who's right and who's wrong? And in answering that question, he says that Yazid was the Khalifa of the Muslimin, the Khalifa of Rasulullah, and his bay'ah was legitimate, and he was right. And Hussein was fooled by the world and the lavishness of this world, and he wanted power and he wanted fame. And many people told him, don't go and fight Yazid, you'll be making a mistake. But he did not listen to them, and he went and he was killed and annihilated. Then he says, may Allah forgive Hussein, and may Allah forgive Yazid for also causing the death of Hussein. May Allah forgive them both. And this is how he answered the question. Then he was asked again, so you believe that Yazid was right and Hussein was wrong? He says, yes. This is our firm belief.
So Yazid was right to kill Imam Hussein according to the Mufti?
Yes. Okay. And others have also said such similar things. And today with the internet and the satellite technology, words are easily reached to different parts of the world and spread in different parts of the world. Anyhow, I want to say the story briefly. A man came to a Shia scholar and he says to him in front of everyone, in a dialogue, I think, that had occurred to bring the Muslims together under one umbrella. So this person wanted to bring the Muslims and unite them under the wrong umbrella, the wrong theme. So he said this. He said, before I came, I saw a dream. I slept and I saw a dream. In the dream I saw that it's a day of judgment. And Yazid is there standing with Shimr and Umar ibn Sa'd. And on the other hand, Imam Hussein and Abu al-Fadl Abbas and Ali al-Akbar, and they're standing. So Allah says, Hussein, you're a good man, your grandfather is the Prophet. Why don't you forgive Yazid? Why don't you forgive Shimr? Why don't you forgive Shimr ibn al-Jawshan and Umar ibn Sa'd? So Imam Hussein said, yes, I don't mind, I'll forgive them. So he forgave them. They both entered heaven, Yazid and Imam Hussein. He said this so that he can basically put Hussein in heaven, put Yazid alongside Hussein in heaven.
Parallel together.
Yeah. So the Shia scholar was smart. He said, okay, that's a good dream. Next day, he came and he said, I saw a dream. Now, he had said this as probably a white lie to raise awareness amongst the mind of the people that are easily fooled.
A response to the previous.
He said, I saw a dream today too. He said, what is the dream? He said, I saw a dream that Rasulullah was walking in paradise. Then he saw a palace of Shimr. The person that put the knife on the neck of Hussein and he beheaded him. And then he walked a little further, he saw the palace of Umar ibn Sa'd, the person that brought 100,000 men to stand against his grandson Hussein. And then he saw the palace of Yazid. So he said, this paradise that has Yazid and Shimr and the killers of my family, I don't want to stay in there. So Rasulullah left. He packed up and he was leaving. When he was leaving, Fatima Zahra, his daughter, saw him. She said, Ya Rasulullah, you're my father, where are you going? He says, I don't want to stay in a place where I see the killer and the murderer of my own grandson and those who neglected me and those who neglected my religion. He said, if you're leaving, I'm leaving with you too. When they were leaving, Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali saw them. He said, my wife and my beloved Rasulullah are leaving, how can I stay? Imam Hassan saw them, Imam Hussein, to make the long story short, they were leaving from paradise, and paradise was left for Yazid and Shimr and Umar ibn Sa'd. So this is not how it works. We need to know the history behind it. And for some people that want to put Yazid and Imam Hussein in paradise, good for them. But this is not going to happen. Allah has haqq and Allah has batil. Al-Hussein Sayyid Shabab Ahl al-Jannah. This is what we're sure of. That Hussein is the master of youth of paradise, according to Rasulullah. Now we come to examine Yazid. And let's examine him from the beginning. Yazid is the son of Muawiyah. Muawiyah is the son of Abu Sufyan. Muawiyah ibn Abu Sufyan. Who was Abu Sufyan? The grandfather of Yazid was Abu Sufyan. Amongst the top 3 of the enemies of Rasulullah was Abu Sufyan. Abu Sufyan was married to a woman by the name of Hind, the mother of Muawiyah. Amongst the things that Hind did was she was the one responsible for the death of the uncle of Rasulullah, Sayyid al-Shuhada Hamza, in the battle of Uhud. If you go to Mecca, if you go to Medina, you go to the ziyarah of the Shuhada Uhud. And the companions that fell martyrs in the battle of Uhud. The most important one of them is the uncle of Rasulullah, Hamza. And Hamza was the defender of Rasulullah. No one was able to disrespect Rasulullah while Hamza was alive. He defended Rasulullah. He followed the religion of Rasulullah. She not only had her slave kill Hamza, but after the battle was finished, she took a dagger. She cut his fingers, his nose, his ears, his tongue, his lips, and she made a necklace out of them, and she wore this necklace. This is the mother of Muawiyah. We said the grandfather was Rasulullah.
Of Imam Hussein. The grandfather was Rasulullah. The mother was Fatima, the father was Ali. Today when we speak about Yazid, we say the grandfather was Abu Sufyan, the staunch enemy of Rasulullah, that used to take the poor companions, and he used to punish them, and he used to brutally beat them himself. Amongst them was Bilal, amongst them was Sumayyah, amongst them was Ammar, amongst them were Yasir. Those were people that were under the torture of Abu Sufyan directly himself used to torture them. And he was the one that was a staunch enemy of Rasulullah. This is the grandfather of Yazid. Who was his grandmother? Hind. That we said ate the liver of Hamza and made a necklace of his body parts. This is the grandmother of Yazid. This is the family. Who was his mother? The mother of Yazid was a woman by the name of Maysoon. She was Christian. Muawiyah married her. Maysoon belonged to a famous Christian tribe. So she would take Yazid, her son, and they would go to the tribe many months, 6 months, 3 months of the year. They would go back to her home, to her family. So Yazid would go to his Christian grandparents. Yazid, from his mother's side, had Christian grandparents. Christian background,
drinking, alcohol, dancing. This is also mentioned in the books of history. That Maysoon was accompanied by a man by the name of Sir John. Again, a Christian minister, and the Islamic government of Muawiyah, his right man, his right aide, his advisor was a Christian man by the name of Sir John. Can you believe the Khalifa of Rasulullah? His right hand, his first advisor is a Christian man by the name of Sir John. Sir John was the one that would accompany Maysoon in those journeys. Now, Sir John accompanying Maysoon, they go out in the deserts, they go by themselves, and then Maysoon comes back pregnant with Yazid. Those are stories we leave for later. But imagine the Khalifa of the Muslims, his wife goes off with a Christian man. Nothing happens, hopefully. But look at the world. That the man in charge of the Muslim affairs, his wife is Christian. The person accompanying her is a Christian man by the name of Sir John. And she takes Yazid, who also became the Khalifa of the Muslims, to the Christian tribe. This is his mother, Maysoon. Now, who was Yazid? Imam Hussein describes Yazid. أن يزيد رجل فاسق فاجر شارب للخمر قاتل للنفس المؤمنة ومثلي لا يبايع مثله. هيهات وقد ركزني بين اثنتين بين السلة والذلة وهيهات من الذلة يأبى الله لنا ذلك ورسوله والمؤمنون. And then he says إني لم أخرج أشرا ولا بطرا ولا مفسدا بل خرجت لإصلاح أمة جدي رسول الله لكي آمر بالمعروف وأنهى عن المنكر وأسير على سيرة جدي وأبي.
Which means, Sayyidina?
Which means that Imam Hussein summarizes everything. Yazid is a man that is fasiq, sinner, publicly. Fajr, there isn't a sin that he does not perform. قاتل للنفس المحترمة, he's a killer of the innocent self. Why? The people that did not pay allegiance to Yazid. But they weren't against Yazid, they just didn't pay allegiance to him. He would take them, strip them off their clothes, cut the right hand and the left leg, and throw them in the middle of the street. This was Yazid. This is how he treated people.
Torturing.
Just because they didn't give allegiance to him. قاتل النفس المحترمة. Okay? Then he goes to Hussein, you give me allegiance or I kill you. Imam Hussein says, I will not give him allegiance to save the religion of Islam. Now this is where I want to get to. Yazid not only killed Imam Hussein and 72 of his companions and annihilated them to a point where after the death of Imam Hussein, they beheaded every one of the companions of Imam Hussein. With Imam Hussein, they put their heads on spears and they took them from city to city. The grandson of Rasulullah's head is being driven from city to city and people are clapping. He goes from city to city, the head of Imam Hussein with 72 other heads, goes from city to city and people are clapping and celebrating. And Yazid knows this. Then he takes Zainab, salawatullahi alayha, the daughter of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the granddaughter of Rasulullah, and he takes her as a captive to his palace. And he puts her in a kharaba, in a dump. After she has lost her brothers, after she has lost all of her family, her sons, her nephews, and he tortures them. And he fools them. He says to her, how do you find what Allah done to you? To whom? Zainab, the granddaughter of Rasulullah? The daughter of Amir al-Mu'mineen? This is what he had done to Imam Hussein. But what else did he do? Yazid caused gory history. Waqa'atul Harr. He invaded Medina in a story when we speak about the revenge of Mukhtar and how he took the revenge of Imam Hussein, the vengeance of Imam Hussein. We'll speak about the character of Mukhtar. And the revolutions that occurred after the revolution of Imam Hussein to take the vengeance of Imam Hussein. Yazid, to shut down those revolutions, invaded Medina, killed 700 from Hamalatul Quran, 700 people that had memorized the Quran.
The city of the Prophet in itself.
The city of the Prophet, there was bloodshed there. He killed 700 of their men, and his army, it's written in history, his army brought dogs. And they threw the dogs inside the masjid of Rasulullah. And they put their horses inside the masjid of Rasulullah. And their dogs inside the masjid of Rasulullah. But this is not them. When he killed those 700 people, he brought women and he raped them inside the masjid of Rasulullah. 1,000 girls were raped by the army of Yazid. Na'udhu billah, na'udhu billah. Imagine what happened to the Muslim world. When they would rape those girls, they would take pieces of the Quran and they would wipe themselves with the pieces of the Quran. This is the Khalifa of Rasulullah. The following year, the last year of his Khilafah, he invaded the city of Mecca, Haramullah.
The Kaaba, the holy house.
The Kaaba. And he went and he sat next to the Kaaba and his army sat next to the Kaaba and they began to drink. قف على دكة الخمار واسقينا ما قال ربك ويل للذين شربوا بل قال ويل للمصلين.
To start drinking alcohol.
He began to drink alcohol because of his victory next to the Kaaba. Then he says in his poetry that I just read, let's sit and drink. For Allah did not say wail, wow to those who drink, but He said wow to those who Pray, meaning those who, Allah says, wow upon those who pray, but though they do not give importance to their prayer. He's fooling the Quran, mocking the religion. This was Yazid. Now a person has the audacity to come and say Yazid had the legitimacy of being the Khalifa and Hussein did not. Yazid was the Khalifa of the Muslimin and Hussein was not. Yazid will end up in paradise and Hussein will not. Where have we taken ourselves and the Muslim Ummah? Let us ask ourselves, what is our job as Muslims? Is it to sit in front of the television screen and hear a person say that Yazid had the legitimacy, Yazid radiyallahu an, and the Muslim world remains silent? How many of the Sunni brothers and scholars and thinkers and lovers of Hussein stood and said, this man needs to be punished, this man needs to be stopped, this man needs to be taught a lesson, to praise Yazid and superiorize Yazid over Hussein? But we see that, unfortunately, many people do not care. Many people do not. And the Muslim Ummah asks, why are the followers of Ahlul Bayt making such a big ceremony for Hussein? If we were to leave those ceremonies, and if we were not to speak, not to enlighten the world, not to spread the message of Hussein, several years down the line, people will say, Hussein just had a heart attack and died, and Yazid was the Khalifa of the Muslimin. We have a responsibility, brother Ali. We have a responsibility towards Imam Hussein. We have a responsibility towards Allah, Rasulullah, to spread the message of truth. Let people know who was Hussein, who was Yazid. Now it's up to you and me. Do I want to be on the side of Hussein, or do I want to be on the side of Yazid?
Ahsantum Sayyidina. Indeed, we know that it's one of the signs of a believer of Allah to remember those signs, sha'air Allah. And one of the sha'air Allah was the message of Imam Hussein, the ceremony in the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And I believe we've had a very good balanced message from the side of Yazid and the side of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And I remember a poetry in Persian, they say that in Hussein kis ka alam hame divane oost. The poet says that who is this Hussein who the world suddenly all goes crazy of. And I also remember that in Muharram we always remember Imam Hussein. The name of Hussein spreads around the world, and it is true that the name of Hussein, the message of Hussein is beating every single day, whereas the name of Yazid, or the lessons, or rather we can learn about the importance of staying on the side of haqq and the truth from the story and the message and the revolution of Imam Hussein on the day of Ashura, and to learn from the importance of staying, adhering to the message of the Holy Prophet, and that was to stay with the Quran and his Ahlul Bayt. Thank you very much, Sayyidina. We end this show of the awakening journey, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you.